We invite open, curious minds to the Hotel Guest Wellbeing Show. I'm your host, Estee Manning. Please join me on a discovery journey of vibrant wellbeing to live happy, healthy, connected, and thriving lives. This is an interview that is very close to my heart. Network Spinal Analysis, otherwise known as NSA, Network Chiropractic, or simply Network, has played a huge part in my life since the earlier half of 2017. The NSA team at Noosa Holistic Health are Rebecca Cohen, Simon Street, and Shelley Axford, who is head of the NSA teaching staff in Australia. I am so grateful that we have this wonderful team here in Noosa. Working with these practitioners, I continue to learn so much about the inner workings of the intelligence within us and feel the shifts from these sessions in the life experiences that are opening up around me. Basically, as tension releases, life gets easier, fuller, and richer. Most people initially start Network because of pain in their body. For me, it was to get a better handle on my emotions, and in all honesty, I wanted to kick life into gear a little more. I was sensing that there was something more for me, and I wanted to tap into those potentials. As Simon mentions in this interview, areas of tension within the body are areas of potential. Since tension is simply bound up energy, when we release it, we become more energy efficient, which means we have more energy for life. What I find incredibly fascinating is how particular types of stress or tension are stored in the body. So anxiety, anger, fear of the future, fight or flight, living in the headspace, identity. So what Network does is it provides a space of safety so we can let go of that tension, that stress, and then experience higher levels of expression and potential. Even the brilliant Tony Robbins says that nothing has helped transform his body more than working with Donnie Epstein, the founder of NSA. In a video in the show notes of this interview, Tony shares his story of how much pain he used to be in his 20s and 30s. Now in his 50s, he feels so much stronger than he ever has physically because of working with Donnie. He also shares how he has more access to strategies within his nervous system, which has to do with accessing deeper levels of consciousness. In this interview with Simon Street, we touch on what NSA is, how it can help with physical, emotional, and chemical stress, the healing wisdom within the body, the most common patterns that people experience, Network for all ages, the power of breathwork, the Network experience, and so much more. We go deep in this interview, but I feel there's a beautiful undercurrent of simplicity that shines through. So it's so lovely to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me here. It's really cool.
So I'd like to hear just about your story and how you came into doing Network Spinal Analysis.
Yeah. So basically, I studied chiropractic quite a few years ago. I graduated from Murdoch University in 2009. And towards the end of my schooling, I just wasn't quite resonating with what was being taught there in the way that we were taught to practice. So I decided that maybe it wasn't my thing, and I decided to get straight into education. So I did a grad dip ed, and then I was working in education for about 6 or 7 years, and then some circumstances kind of led me back in towards the healing field. So I had a knee injury that was just chronic. I injured it. I was jumping over a creek, and I landed on what I thought was solid ground. It was actually muddy, and my knee hyperextended, so it went straighter than straight, past the point of straight, and it was just unstable for years. It was really affecting the way that I was living, and mentally as well. Like I was getting really, really frustrated. I'd had all these tests, MRIs, X-rays, blood tests, all sorts of different physicians examining me and trying to tell me what was going wrong. Everybody told me that I was fine, but I wasn't fine, and I knew that. And eventually I went and I was living in Indonesia at the time, and I went to Bali and saw a physiotherapist there. And he was the first professional who actually put his hands on me and thoroughly, examined the area and listened to me and just said, "Oh, you're saying something's wrong. I believe you, something's wrong. Let's have a look at it," rather than just say, "Well, these tests say nothing's wrong. You're fine." And so that experience really brought me back to the power of caring, understanding, and hands-on people. Um, and that kind of led me back to the field of chiropractic. So I decided I'd get my registration. I was studying for board examinations, which was an ordeal in itself. It's the examinations that people have to sit when they've trained overseas and they want to come back to Australia to practice. Because it'd been so long since I'd practiced, I needed to go through that process. So I was going through that process and just coming across the same blocks again and again, just thinking, there's something not quite right here for me. And so I was living in Darwin at the time, and I had a chat with another chiropractor there, and she told me that she was going to a network seminar. And I'd heard about network when I was in second year chiropractic. I had a few friends who went down that avenue, but I didn't know that there were seminars that you could actually go to learn this technique. So I decided I'd go straight away. And it turned out that that seminar was being hosted in a place that shares a wall in Melbourne with my auntie's house. And I thought, that's just too much of a coincidence, you know. So I went there and I met Shelley Axford, who I'm now working with, and just the whole set of circumstances, really, I felt just a strong push in that direction. And the understanding of health and wellness through the system of network just resonated with me. It just made so much more sense. And so now, yeah, I'm still just really in the middle of really getting into it and exploring it in its depth. And I feel like there's a long way to go. You know, it's a very deep topic, so there's a lot to learn still. But that's where I'm at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you be able to explain what NSA is, or Network Spinal Analysis?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is basically, traditionally, chiropractors have focused on structural interference to the nervous system. So chiropractic was a profession that was founded upon the understanding of a healing wisdom within the body. So that part of you that just knows, you know, like say you've got a cut, you don't have to think about healing that cut. It happens. Your body knows what to do. It's intelligent. There's something going on there that's beyond our conscious mind. So that healing intelligence is expressed through the nervous system. And traditionally, chiropractors focus on the structural interference. So if two vertebrae segments are out of place, they'll make an adjustment and free up that interference. What's been shown is that there's a lot of interference actually happening within the meningeal system, which is a series of coverings that goes directly around the brain and the spinal cord. And so it's intimately linked with your central nervous system. So what we do in network spinal analysis is we assess the spine and nervous system to find areas, tension patterns, where that tension has been stored within the meningeal system. And then what we do is, instead of going to areas of dis-ease, areas that aren't well, areas that are restricted, we actually go to areas that are open and where there's a sense of rapport and ease and wellness. And we just apply a really light, very specifically timed, very specifically placed contact. And that just reconnects the body with that sense of ease and wellness. And through that, the body and the central nervous system can self-reflect, see that it doesn't need to be holding on to this pattern of tension, of stress, and reorganize itself, letting go of tension and stress. So through that basically providing a mirror to the system and seeing that there's actually areas of safety and wellness, it can reconnect with that and let go of tension. So that's network in a very compressed nutshell. Yeah.
It's beautiful because it's really providing a space for our body to self-heal.
Yeah.
And I love that about this modality, because it's not someone coming in and saying, you know, I'll heal you. It's allowing the body, providing space for the body to heal itself.
Yeah.
And so much wisdom comes from that, and provides resources for us to continue to grow and use that.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And I always tell all the people who come in to see me that I'm really not doing the work. What I'm doing is providing a mirror, in a sense, so that that person can do their own healing. You know, and it's all there within all of us. We just need a reminder here or there sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of the first things I noticed about working with you is your integrity. Like it was beautiful in that afterwards I was so grateful, and you just said, "Oh, this is you. You're doing this," and that to me is such a that really, there's a real integrity in that, and I feel that with all the practitioners there, Shelley and Beck, and
Yeah.
everyone I've worked with. It's really beautiful in that there is such integrity and space provided.
Cool.
So, can we talk about how the emotions get stuck in the body? What's the story there of how this tension begins?
Yeah. So the understanding is, emotion and mind consciousness is so intimately linked with the matter. So I practice a lot of a meditation called Vipassana, and the whole practice is focusing your mind to the point where you can start really analyzing and understanding the link between your mind and your matter, how they actually are constantly influencing each other all the time at a very subtle level, which is beyond our normal level of consciousness. Most people, we don't ever develop our faculty to realize this truth that's going on within us. So a mental stress, like an emotional stress, the body reacts to that just in the same way as it would to a physical stress or a chemical stress. There's a physical change that goes on in response to mental emotions. So, I mean, a very obvious example would be your posture. So if you're having a great day, you're feeling really confident, everything's all good, you stand up really straight, your shoulders are back, your heart is open, you're confident. When it's the opposite, we come in and we protect that heart space. We slump down. It's so easy to see that emotions have a physical effect on posture, but more than that, on the nervous system. So if we're ever overwhelmed by emotional stress, so a really traumatic event happens, say like loss of a loved one, or a breakup, or something that really affects you on that emotional level, that will have a physical change within that meningeal system. And if that meningeal system doesn't reset itself 100% for whatever reason, a large reason being the stressful nature of our society and the way that we live, then that emotional stress is going to stay stored as tension within that meningeal system, and then it's going to affect us from moment to moment as we go along, as long as that tension is still there. So that's the understanding behind, with the link between emotional stress having an effect on the nervous system.
Yeah, I guess for our busy, stressful life, we haven't been taught tools to process that. And if we're going to a job that's really stressful every single day, and we haven't learned how to really see a bigger picture or a bigger perspective of a way to approach that in a way that we can then move through it in a more empowered way and create a more empowered situation, then we just kind of, it all builds up more and more and more. So I guess this is a way for us to be able to allow our body to, or have the space for our body to find the wisdom to then, when you go into work, it becomes easier and easier.
Exactly. And I mean, you see it on a physical tension level within the nervous system working on people's bodies, but then even just on a purely mental level, like if you keep repeating that same negative pattern of stress or worry or anxiety or whatever it is regarded to work or whatever situation in your life, that just keeps building on itself and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Whereas when you learn how to let go of that tension, either at a physical level or at a mental level, then it gets weaker, and you're living more in that authenticity of who it is you want to be and how you want to live, rather than being controlled by those external circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess so much comes from our conditioning and what we've grown up with and the influence in how we think and behave. And it's really coming back to our own truth and functioning in life from that place, asking ourselves questions in order to expand, rather than looking for external resources, around us. And then that way, that deeper connection, when things come up, we find that wisdom within to move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I love so much that what Network is about is really, it's about the heart.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that there is a lot of scientific study done around the energy that the heart generates.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of HeartMath.
No.
But they measure the frequency of the heart and how powerful it is. And so by doing Network and, helping not connect more to the heart, it's almost helping that energy be expressed more, life changes. And I think that network begins to release all the things that get in our way and stop us living from our authentic self.
Yeah, and that really is, the goal in the later stages of care. So obviously someone who's coming in with severe back pain or say severe emotional problems going on, they don't really care about that at that point in time. They're more about, that immediate survival and getting through the next day. But definitely as tension comes down off the nervous system, instead of care focused on reducing tension and getting rid of stuff that's in the way, we can really start fueling up things that are there, the positive qualities. And definitely that happens through this work. We've seen it on the table time and time again, and our practice members tell us that this is what's happening. And it's interesting that you're saying about that, the HeartMaths, like the thing that came to my mind, and I'm not sure if there's any scientific studies on this, but just immediately I think about back to certain Eastern traditions where they feel that consciousness, the way that we perceive everything, actually resides from here, rather than in the West. Our understanding is very much this is where consciousness is. It's in the brain, whereas there's other ways of seeing the world that feel that this is where it is.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, you could ask yourself the same question coming from your head or from your heart, and the question is going to be totally different, and the answer is going to be totally different, because the mind tends to, why, whereas the heart's more like, oh, I wonder, or there's more curiosity, and that opens up perspective, and just feeling.
And it's funny that even in our mind-dominated culture, we still have that understanding of, there's that advice, oh, just listen to your heart, or, so we still have that understanding that there's something powerful going on here.
And we kind of, I guess I skipped ahead there, which I love to do. I love to play in that space. But it often starts with chronic pain, doesn't it? Or back pain. And that's I guess, is that those emotions starting to basically send signals and say, hey, we've got something going on here, we need to look at this. And then they come into you and
well, so one thing that really drew me to Network was the understanding surrounding symptoms, so symptomatology. Donald Epstein, who is the founder of Network, said a fantastic quote. I can't remember the entire thing, but the crux of it was that the reason for pain is there to interrupt the way you're living. That's what it's there for. You hurt yourself. Obviously, you've done something that you weren't meant to do. So just to stop and be like, what's the message behind this symptom? Whether that's a physical pain or whether that's an emotional pain, the purpose of it is to interrupt, so that you can stop the way you're living and just self-reflect, and then from there make changes. The whole purpose behind Network is not restorative therapeutic. So we're not trying to get rid of somebody's symptoms so that they can go about living life the way that they were living that led to the symptoms in the first place, but to completely reorganize their life, reorganisational healing. And that's where healing actually happens, not by getting rid of symptoms, but by making changes that are sustainable, that lead you into a better direction in life.
It opens things up. And you sent me a podcast a few weeks ago with Dr Kirschner, who I listened
one of my mentors.
And he mentioned there was a study done, and he mentioned two things that came out of that. The first one was that it affects every part of your life, because as you change, your experiences with your family, with work, everything changes because you're changing, you're letting go of that tension. And the other thing that he mentioned is that there's no plateau. You can keep going. It's not you hit a certain level and that's it. Like there's so much potential within all of us. And I love that we can continue to explore that. It's like you can never get bored with life, can you? You can never get bored with experiencing things, because there's always more, and that's the nature of life, really. That expansion and
and I think I remember him saying something about it not having to be age related either. So even though just the whole idea that when we get older, okay, life has to it has to be not what you want it to be, generally, for people when they get older, that aging process. So to be able to get more joy in life, wherever, at whatever stage you are.
It's interesting because sometimes, every now and again, I'll be on the table. My mum will be on the table, and my daughter will be on the table as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
And life is just opening up for mum. Like I mean, life has always kind of been opening up for her, but now she's really feeling really great in who she is, where she is, you know, what is happening in life, and it's just beautiful to see.
yeah. It's been a pleasure to work with her as well.
I have friends who also take their kids in, and I just see it as such a gift, you know, to be able to give that to my daughter. What are those things that we can do to support our nervous system and to support a space where we can, I guess, be able to process emotions more easily?
Yeah, I think that question the answer to that question is totally dependent person by person. I really
Yeah,
feel that everybody has different kind of inclinations.
yeah,
So yeah, I think for everybody it would generally the answer would be balance. You know,
yeah.
balance in life. So making sure that you're not neglecting your physical, your mental, your
Mm,
spiritual. Um, yeah, so just I mean all just all the
mm.
standard
Yeah,
advice:
goodies.
eating well, moving,
Yeah,
and relaxation, connection with people.
yeah.
All of that stuff is what network's about. It's
Mm,
about healthier choices being undertaken just organically. So people
mm,
feeling that sense of wellness
yeah,
within their body, and they want to maintain that. So naturally,
yeah,
when you're feeling good, you make better choices.
yeah.
I find myself when I've been in periods of my life where I'm not feeling well, it just you start doing stupid things,
Mm,
to try and cope with pain in this
yeah,
way or that way,
yeah.
or to try and ignore it.
Mm,
And so, and it just leads to it just it's just that downward spiral.
yeah.
Whereas with with network care, once that your nervous system is functioning freely and you
Mm,
can feel that vitality, that sense of wellness within yourself,
yeah.
it's something that you remember. It's something that feels good. It feels like home. It's
Mm,
something it's a place you want to stay.
mm,
And so we found through studies as well that people who undergo a course of network care have greater quality of life improvements across the board, so in all aspects of their life,
mm,
than any other form of complementary alternative medicine or orthodox medicine.
mm,
So,
yeah,
that's all coming from making good choices after care.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What about things like breath work?
yeah,
Because I know network is you breathe a lot, you know, to move energy. Can we talk about how breath is so important in network, and if breath outside of work can help us again support our nervous system, support ourselves?
yeah. So for me, breath has been a critical part of my journey through meditation.
Yeah,
So that's how I first understood the connection between breath and your mind.
mm,
Those two things cannot be separated again, just like body and mind. So
mm,
every time you have a different emotion, say you're stressed or you're angry or
mm,
you're scared, or any different emotion that's not calm and balanced has an effect on your breathing.
mm,
So it's gonna breathe. You're gonna breathe slightly hard or slightly fast. It changes in that normality.
mm,
When you're feeling that feelings of peace and ease and calmness, it calms down, it slows down, it becomes
mm,
more shallow and more regular.
mm.
And this happens on the table under network care as well. So
Yeah,
so when things are moving, there's a lot of energy going through. The breath can become very strong,
mm,
and that sort of helps that healing process.
yeah,
But the awareness of the breath comes up as well, and this is a really critical factor, that awareness of actually what's going on.
mm,
So maybe the breath's changed from being a nose breath to a mouth breath,
mm,
or maybe it's changed from being shallow to deep. Whatever it is, if that awareness is there,
mm,
there seems to be some link between having awareness of exactly what's going on with your breath, that mindfulness
mm,
of breathing, and just a sense of overall wellness.
mm,
So when that's happening on the table, when that happens off the table as well, just that continuation of that awareness of the breath,
mm,
it helps in every single way. I mean,
yeah,
it's this whole mindfulness kind of thing that's become
yeah,
really popular these days. But I mean, this is not a recent
yeah, yeah,
thing. It's like people have been doing this
mm,
for thousands of years,
yeah,
and there's been scientific evidence of the changes in the brain,
mm,
and you know physical uh, neurological markers that happen with awareness of breathing.
mm,
So definitely, like when people jump off the table the first time, if somebody will ask me, what can I do to keep this process going along after I'm on the table, when I'm off the table, the first thing I always say is maintaining an awareness of your breath.
Yeah.
So even if that's for a few moments every single day, you know, and it's a practice, like it's something that, if you're just aware of your breath going in, stops, breath going out, most people can only stay with that awareness for maybe one, maybe two breaths, and then your mind just goes somewhere.
Yeah.
So it starts rolling in the past or rolling in the future. It doesn't like to stay right here in this point in time.
Yeah.
And you've just got to accept that. You practice it, it stays longer, and then bringing your awareness back to the present can just have amazing results.
I guess if we train ourselves when we are feeling stressed to go, oh, I need to breathe, then that's a great way to change your state. Change your state of being.
Definitely. And the thing about that as well is, you know, when you're completely overwhelmed by stress, you're probably not going to be thinking, I need to think about my breath. You know, there's too much going on. But with regular practice, it happens automatically. So a part of your mind will come to your breath, maybe just for half a breath or a whole breath, without you even consciously thinking about that. And it just touches that brake pedal and just slows that stress down a little bit, And you'll find that stress, which normally would have gone on for, say, 2 hours, might only go on for an hour and 50 minutes. You know, like it just shortens. And that's a gradual process.
Yeah. I know we were chatting about Wim Hof once.
Yeah.
and his breath work.
Yeah, amazing.
But I can see how, like, even just watching an interview with him and going into the breath work, how it really drops us into just a totally different state of being.
Yeah.
And how it can alkalize the body as well. And just activate cells within the body and just get a whole lot of other things happening as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really deep breath. But breath can be used for different things and for different
Definitely.
reasons.
And there's so many different methodologies of breath observation, breath meditation, breath work. You know, like I've found one that works for me, and that's just observation of natural breath. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But the Wim Hof method for sure, from my very limited experience with that, but it just brings energy.
Yeah.
So and there's thousands of different styles, just like same for meditation.
Yeah.
And they've all got their own benefits going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely I feel that's very complementary to what we're doing on the table within the network practice.
Yeah. Can we talk about the different parts of the spine that hold different energy? I just find this so fascinating that certain areas hold an energy for everyone, and being able to work with that and release that, and what may be a more sort of tense expression of an energy can be released to, like what we were talking about the other day, where you have like anxiety, and the other expression of that is trust.
Yeah.
Or being in the mind to being in the heart. What are some of those things that are common tension patterns within the body?
Yeah, so there's a few of them, and this is all based on the work of Donald Epstein. He found through his work, which started out as an upper cervical chiropractor. So he did a lot of work with the skull, C1, C2, where the central nervous system there's a lot going on there. So the brainstem is still coming out of that area. There's a lot of neurology going on. So basically what he's found, and we found that this happens in practice all around the world, is that there's certain vertebrae that are intimately linked with certain kind of stress patterns or tension patterns that get held throughout the meningeal system that we were talking about previously. So some common ones, there's 5 main phases of tension that the body stores in response to, so it's an intelligent response to trauma. So be it physical, emotional, chemical trauma. The body in its wisdom has an intelligent response to store these stress patterns, which is basically like the highest choice that it has available at that point in time. Yeah. So the 5 most common ones. So basically, how much detail would you like me to go into?
Just maybe a minute or two on each or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So basically, we'll start off with C2 pattern. This is the one that's most common in our society, by far. So basically, the C2 vertebrae can shift laterally more than any
Okay.
other vertebrae within the spinal column.
And this is just behind the neck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So basically, with the brainstem coming out at that level, C2 can shift laterally, and this is the body's best way to shut off really intense feelings of pain. So whether that's physical pain or emotional pain, if that C2 vertebrae shifts through that particular tension pattern, then everything can just be shut off. It's, I can't deal with that at this point in time. Let's deal with it later. So all this stuff that's coming to try and come up to the cortex is shut off, and this leads to this kind of lifestyle of living life through the head space rather than the heart space. So this is where you're living through all the kind of ideas of who you should be as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a boss, as an employee, whatever role you're in society, all the expectations, rather than just being like, well, this is who I am, this is how I'm going to live. So the opposite of that, like you said, is shifting from those shoulds to just being that authentic self, that heart-based living. Yeah. And this is by far the most common tension pattern that we see within our Western society.
Why do you think that is?
I think in Australia, it's that whole idea of that tall poppy syndrome, so we don't want to stick out. But this is just what I think. You know, we're happy just to go along with business as usual. Make sure we don't draw too much attention to ourselves, and we're just gonna, you know, float along.
That's a huge one, isn't it? Because to try and stand out or be visible in a different way can be really hard. It brings up all your stuff, doesn't it? And that's I guess what it's about. If you're trying to get to that place, you have to be willing to look at that stuff. And that may be where you find something like network through a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. Or you find a different modality through something else, or you start meditation because you're really sensing that you want to live that way. And that is kind of the nature of how life works, is that it will give you what you're aligning to and what you really want to create in your life.
Yeah. So that's a big one, and we work with that a lot. Another common tension pattern is a tension that's stored with the C1 vertebrae, so the next one up between your skull and C2. We find that this vertebrae is highly linked with any kind of feeling of anxiety. So usually related to fear of the future. So that whole thing of, is there going to be enough? So whether that's money or love or shelter or whatever it is, that low level anxiety, just worry. And then the flip side of that, when we can release that tension pattern, is just trust. That of course there's going to be enough. I'm doing the right thing. Whatever I need is going to come to me, like without just sitting back and expecting it to come. Of course, you're going to keep working for it, but just that trust that what you need will come to you. C5 is highly linked with feelings of unexpressed anger. So anytime, or frustration. So anytime where we've been in that situation, we feel like, you know, something was, you know, we were done wrong by. Something happened where, you know, we should have said something, we should have done something, but for whatever reason we didn't. That gets stored around that C5 area. And then we've got a lot of tension patterns that are stored around the sacrum are generally related to your identity, which again kind of links in with that shift away from the heart space. So anything that's happened, and we find that certain areas can correspond strongly to where you've taken that on in life. So at what age? So Donald Epstein, who's just an absolute master of this work, is able to work with someone who he's never met and sort of find along, say, their sacrum, find something that's going on, and just say, hey, did something go on at about, you know, was it 8, was it 9?
Wow.
You know, and really pinpoint the age of some massive trauma without knowing this person. And then they'll say, well, that's crazy, like, this happened. You know, or maybe they won't remember, and then they'll think about it and they'll come back and they'll say, yeah, actually this happened. So the way that the body stores it is very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of hotels, and I see such a great opportunity for people who want to go away and experience something different than the norm, than what they may have wanted to do in the past. And
Sure.
there is also a huge wellness trend happening in the world.
Yeah.
People are feeling it either because they want to maintain a happy, healthy life, or they may have chronic pain or something else going on where, you know, they're really having to look at something. And so I see the collaboration between hotels and wellness practitioners like you guys, and so people can come away and have a week's holiday and get to experience something for themselves. So if someone was to come on holiday, say up to here in Noosa,
Yeah.
and then come and see you guys, what would be the process?
So basically what would happen when they come to our clinic is they would have to fill out quite a detailed history form to start off with. So we feel that it's really important to get a good understanding of where that person is in this time and what's brought them to there. So with lots of different factors from the past. So we ask about that in our history form. Then we'll sit down and we'll take a history with that person. So we go through the history form, and that's just a really good place to start the discussion. So we can just really get a good sense of who this person is and what do they want, you know, like why are they here and what's their motivation, and, you know, and more than just coming in for, you know, for an experience, like what are their true desires, like what do they want to make happen in life, and what do they want to give to life. So that kind of thing in our history examination. After that, we'll do a physical examination. So we're looking at how their central nervous system is situated at this point in time within their skull, within their vertebrae, just to see areas of tension, and to notice where there's areas of tension is to notice where there's areas of potential. So tension is bound up energy, and that energy, if we can release it to, you know, for in a posture, say, that's more energy efficient, then that's energy they no longer have to be expending as tension, which means it's free energy for life. So we'll have a look at that, and then we'll get them on the table and we'll do our first session, and that's actually part of the physical examination. So we want to see how their body responds to care.
Could they then book in several sessions while they're up, just to really kick off that process?
Certainly, and depending on what their goals are, you know, it's definitely a process rather than an event. So like any healthcare wellness practice, you're not just going to go one time and now everything's amazing. People do have big breakthroughs on their first session, but it's much more of a commitment. And I mean, it's like eating well or exercising. You don't just do it once and then think everything's going to be great. So definitely a few sessions would always help give them a deeper understanding of what it is we actually do, and then a deeper understanding of what's actually going on within their body. So the whole thing is that experiential understanding. You know, you can talk about it, you can read books about it. It can all sound great in theory, but until you experience the practice within your body on the table, you don't know what it's about. So when you do have that experience, and it can take some people a few sessions to have that aha moment, but when it comes, it's amazing. And you've had that yourself, I've had that myself. You know, to be honest, when I first saw Network, I didn't believe it. I thought, how can these people be, like, what's going on? I was very skeptical. And then when I had that experience within my body, it just made sense. So, I think like anything, to really understand it, you have to get that experiential knowledge. And definitely a few sessions together helps that. And hopefully where they're going home after their break, there'll be a practitioner there and they can continue the process.
There's practitioners all over Australia, worldwide now, and it's a really, Shelley was saying that it's a really fast growing practice that are being taken up by chiropractors. So there's a lot of people doing it all over the world.
It's pretty exciting. And I mean, what better mind state than being on holiday to come and try something new, you know, like I know from my experience of doing a fair bit of travel in the past, like it just brings you into that mindset where you're just really open to change, and you know, you're not living that same day to day that you normally do. Like sometimes a bit robotically, where you just kind of go about your day without thinking about it. You've got a totally different new routine. You're in a new place. There's new exciting stuff going on, and to be in that open space can be a really exciting place to explore a new healthcare practice.
Absolutely. And studies have been shown that we are actually primed and wired for new things when we travel, because it isn't, being on that autopilot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So then, I mean, whenever I come out of network, I feel like I just feel open and I feel amazing. Sometimes, occasionally in the beginning, I felt tired once or twice, but generally I feel really good.
Yeah.
What's your, I guess, what do you see as people feeling after they've had a session?
Yeah, so there's a whole range, and it's really dependent on, one, who the person is, and two, where they're at in their care.
Yeah.
So when people come in at the start, a lot of the time, it's still very much that wound mentality.
Yeah.
So if you've got crazy back pain and you want it to go away, it hasn't gone away, you might get off and just feel like, well, shit. Oh, I just swore.
That's all right. That's all right.
But that's what they'll be thinking. They're like,
yeah.
well, I'm not sure what happens there,
Yeah.
Because it can be quite subtle.
Yes.
But as it builds and people start getting that understanding, they start getting that adaptability and flexibility back into their nervous system, symptoms start coming down naturally.
Yeah.
But more than that, they get a greater understanding of who they are.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really trying to do. So, and that can manifest itself in a whole bunch of ways. Some people get off there, they're a little bit shell-shocked. People can have very massive experiences where it takes them a little while to kind of settle back down. Sometimes people can be very, very talkative. Sometimes people can be a little bit hysterical, it's all a bit funny. Or sometimes, like you said, people can just feel that lack of energy. Yeah. And that's actually related to one of the phase patterns we were talking about before. And that's something that I'm going through at the moment. But whatever way it comes up, along the whole process, overall, people have a definite felt sense of improved well-being as we progress. Yeah. So from session to session, that will change, but the overall perspective and the overall picture is much more important, and that's just an upward trajectory.
Oh, I love that. It's a progression. It's not like I'm going in. It's not like going to the doctors and getting something for, a particular illness that's a drug and acting more as just a Band-Aid, but then that problem is still kind of sitting there, or, different types of other work where it may be working on the pain, but it still continues to be there, and it's more of a long drawn out experience rather than like a progression. Yeah. So I love that about network.
Yeah. That's good.
So I might switch it up here. Cool. And alignment is really something that is important to me, and really I'm really understanding how much it can change the rest of your day by having some kind of alignment practices. And so I'm curious as to what you do, or do you do something to really feel good in who you are? Obviously network.
Yeah.
But what are some other things that you do that really help align and focus towards what you're creating?
Yeah, so for me, meditation has just been the thing. To really change where I was going in my life. I was heading down some pretty dark paths in the past, and I really felt and knew that I needed to turn it around. So I had to put in a lot of hard work, and that was through meditation. Yeah. So for me, to really get that strong alignment going on at the start of the day, I'll try and wake up before the sun, so say 5:30. Yeah. Meditate for an hour, and then after that, it can vary. I've been experimenting with a whole bunch of different things at the moment. So I've been getting into cold showers.
Oh yeah,
which has been kind of cool. I guess that's kind of a Wim Hof thing as well. Yeah. But where I was living before, I was living in Darwin, and before that I was living in Indonesia. Yeah. And cold showers just don't exist.
You couldn't get it cold.
Yeah, and I mean they're barely cold here. Yeah. But you can feel it. So a cold shower, some kind of movement, so whether that's just some push-ups or some yoga at home, or going to a yoga class, going to the gym, getting in the ocean, going for a surf when the waves are there really makes my day fantastic. Yeah. And then just chipping away at what it is that I want to be doing. So either whether that's kind of study on a theoretical level of the body, of consciousness, of network, or working with people, so doing practice sessions with my colleagues or whatever that might be, going to work and actually, connecting with my practice members really gives me a lot of energy. So yeah, I find the days that I'm working, and I'm only working 3 days a week at the moment, but which is great, but when I am working, I feel that alignment is just, it really solidifies, because everything that I'm doing on the periphery really comes together in the clinic, and that's something that I feel I can give to the practice members who are coming in. And in that sense of giving is where I really get that buzz from.
And you do. Every time I see you're beaming. I feel like you really honor everyone, and there's such an integrity that I just really appreciate and really love. So
Thanks.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share that you feel that people really need to hear, or that's an important message that you want to share?
Wow, I wish I had time to prepare for that one. I would say just recently I've been really noticing how fast time just flies by. And from that I'm just really getting a sense of how important it is to really be clear of what it is you want to give to the world. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So there's always that idea of, well, what's the point anyway? Like it all has to end and it doesn't matter. But I really feel that when you've got that strong sense of what it is that you want to be giving, and working towards that every day and not wasting time, which is something I've been so guilty of in the past, like just wasting so much time. So yeah, my important message would be really like be focused on what it is you want to give and to contribute. And just like Bob Marley said, how can you give your more to receive your less? The more you give to the world, it just comes back, and it doesn't have to be in a material form, but just to just that sense of contentment from giving, I think is really what I'm about at this point in time.
Wow, that is beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I really believe that when people can start to live and be in that space, that is such a gift to other people. That is such a gift. Just from being in the presence of people who are holding that energy that is felt. And like what I was talking about before around HeartMath, that generates energy because that is coming from the heart, and that is actually very powerful energy. So you're doing a lot more in just holding that energy, I believe, and it's noticed.
Cool. Well, that's good. I mean, so many people have really helped me, and some of them are very well known to me, some of them are not at all. And I just want to do whatever I can to pass that on. And and I hope anyone who can feel that from me does the same.
Ah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful.
For our listeners, Noosa Holistic Health are generously offering an introductory special price for 3 NSA sessions. All you need to do is mention Pebble Design for the special price. For show notes, resources, links and more about Noosa Holistic Health and NSA, please visit pebbledesign.com/3. If you like this conversation, we'd love your feedback. Leave a review, a question or a quick comment. That way we can invite more guests on the show around wellbeing topics you're more curious about to live a happy, healthy, thriving and vital life. Subscribe on iTunes or our website pebbledesign.com to be part of the guest wellbeing conversation.